Hello, I'm Los Angeles City Controller Ron Galperin, and I'm so pleased to be part of the LA Public Library's continued work to promote financial literacy. All year long, the library, through its outstanding Department of Lifelong Learning, hosts life-changing programs that teach and support financial empowerment, immigrant integration and inclusion, and health and wellness. And the best part of it is that it's all free. As controller, I make sure that public dollars are being put to good use by keeping our government honest, responsive, and accountable. Because people want to know and deserve to know that their government is doing its best to serve them. While it's important for the city to plan how to use its money wisely, I want you to know that it's just as important for you to do the same. Because the financial health of the city depends on the financial health of all Angelenos. The programs that the library is hosting this week and throughout the year are here to help everyone succeed and to make a positive financial choice for their future. I am so grateful for all our libraries and the incredible staff and VITA and EITC financial experts and all their volunteers for all they do to ensure that you and your families have the tools and resources not only to prepare your taxes, but to help you be on the right financial track. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Galperin. Hi, everyone. I'm Caroline Zakari, and I work for the Office of Civics and Community Services here at the Los Angeles Public Library. Welcome to Financial Literacy Month. Today's program is called Budgeting, Developing Your Spending and Saving Plan, and it's brought to you by the Los Angeles Alliance for Economic Inclusion and the Los Angeles Public Library. Today, Mary Duran, Flory Martinez, and Marco Ramirez from Los Angeles Alliance for Economic Inclusion will talk about developing a saving plan and prioritizing spending when money is short. We'll have a brief Q&A after the presentation, so please send us through questions throughout the program. Thank you very much, and take it away, Mary.
Thank you so much, Caroline. And the FDIC's Alliance for Economic Inclusion really wants to thank the Los Angeles Public Library for allowing us to present this workshop today. Next, I have to share with you our disclaimer that this presentation represents the views of the speaker and not necessarily those of the agencies they represent. This presentation cannot be reproduced or distributed by a third party or on a third-party website without prior authorization. Reference to any specific organization does not constitute an endorsement, a recommendation, or a favoring by the FDIC or the United States government. Next, I want to share with you today's objectives, which Caroline mentioned. We're going to discuss how to create and use a spending and savings plan, list ways to increase your income and decrease your expenses, tips on opening a bank account if you don't already have one, and then thinking about savings and how to pledge to save. And finally, we'll share other resources that you can access to provide you more in-depth information on this topic. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Flory Martinez, who will do the first part of the presentation. Flory?
Today, in this section 1, we'll discuss how to develop a monthly spending and savings plan. Next. The key takeaways from this section is use a monthly spending and savings plan to guide how you use your money. We'll discuss the building blocks of spending and savings plan on the next slide. Next. Let's discuss the building blocks of spending and savings plan. A spending and savings plan helps you compare your income and expenses, understand where your money is going, and make adjustment as needed so you can meet your financial goals. Some also refers a spending and savings plans as developing a budget. Spending and saving plans brings together two important topics: income and expenses. Income is the money you receive. Expenses are how you use your money. Well, we'll discuss in the next slide how to prepare your spending and savings plan. Let's discuss how to prepare your spending and savings plans. Your spending and savings plans has three parts. The first part is your net income, which is your income after taxes and other deduction, which is sometimes referred to as your take-home pay. For example, salary or wages, interest, public benefits, interest or gifts. The second part focuses on expenses. Example of expenses: rent, mortgage, car payment, groceries, utilities, and credit card payments. The third part is comparison between your total net income and your expenses to see if they are aligned. Let's take a look at a sample plan on the next slide. Now we'll go over how to prepare your spending and savings plan. First, complete the monthly amount column to record your net income and your expenses based on the past month. Next, complete the plan monthly amount column. Use the past amount column as a guide, but remember to make adjustment. For example, you need to allow for a higher amount for gasoline, especially nowadays, the gasoline it's very expensive, or for a credit card payment. Maybe you want to put more money away for your savings because you got a raise, perhaps you got a bonus. As you're planning your future monthly amounts, you may come across expenses that can be reduced or out completely. For example, switching to a cheaper internet, cable, or your cell phone bills. So all you have to really do is contact the companies where you have this type of utilities, right? Finally, complete your total net income and your total expenses. This will help you see if your income covers your expenses. Let's discuss this on the next slide. Next, please. Thank you. When you compare your total net income and your total expenses, you will have three possible outcomes. If the difference you calculate in the comparison of total income and total expenses is zero, your income is the same as your expenses and you have just enough income to cover your expenses. Some people refers to this as living paycheck to paycheck. A positive number, you have more income than expenses and you have enough income to cover your expenses. A negative number, you have more expenses than income. You will do the same. You do not have enough income. If it's a negative, you do not have enough income to cover your expenses. You will need to look ways to increase your income, decrease your expenses, or incur debt to make it possible to cover your expenses. Next. Using my spending and savings plans. Once you develop your spending and savings plan, let's discuss how to use it throughout the month to gain and keep control over how you use your money. Everyone is different. So there are many ways to approach in this. Some ideas you can do daily, while others you can do once a week or once a month. Let's discuss these ideas on the next slide. Let's discuss daily and weekly ideas. Daily ideas: record your savings, sharing, and spending amount. Sharing amount might be a donation to a charity or your place of worship or other places where you make a donation. Collect your changes. Drop your spare changes into a jar or your piggy bank. You won't even miss it, and it will keep your pocket free of loose changes. Plus, don't forget to save your receipt. You can use the receipt to keep track of your use of income. You can also use them to review against your monthly bank or credit card statements. You probably will have other ideas as that you could think of. And the weekly ideas, envelope system. If you manage your finances using cash, you might consider putting limits on your spending using the envelope system. We will discuss the monthly ideas on the next slide. Label the envelopes for the categories of spending you want to limit. For example, groceries, household supplies, and eating out or take out. Using your spending and saving plans, estimate how much you will need for each categories for a week. Put those amounts in your envelope at the beginning of each week. Use only what it is in that envelope for your spending. There are numbers of other ways to keep track of your savings and spending plan. For example, the number of apps that you can download on your phone to keep track of your spending, or you could create a worksheet or an Excel sheet to create a log of your spending if you don't want to use an app. Establish a weekly money check-in. Set aside a convenient time and day of the week for you and other members of your household to review your actual spending against your spending and savings plan. Adjust your spending or savings plans for the next week. You can also use this to pay your bills. I'm sure you have other ideas for your weekly check-in that makes sense for your situation or for your family. In the next slide, we will discuss the monthly ideas and how it looks. Next. Monthly ideas. Conducting a monthly review at least once a month. Review your records of spending for the past month using an app, receipt of your own log of spending. Compare how your spending and savings plan did. Consider what you might want to do differently next month, just in case the previous month didn't work. And create a spending and savings plan for the next month that is realistic and aligned with how you want to use your money. Where is my money going, right? Having a monthly goal setting session. Have each family or household member write one or more goals for their spending and savings in the coming month. Be sure to also review progress towards the previous month's goal. How did you do, or your family members? Celebrate success. There are many ways to celebrate success. For example, you could announce a family or household member to be the money manager of the month because they save more or spend less during the month. Prepare for taxes. At the end of the month, identify expenses that may be important for tax time. Make sure to save your receipt, invoices, or screenshot of any online banking. And these are the ideas that we have for you. You probably have other ideas for a monthly review, a weekly review, whatever works for you. On the next slide, we will be discussing increasing income. Increasing income. You may be able to increase your income to help cover your expenses or increase the amount of money you can save or share. Some activities may provide more income by selling something on one's or occasionally, for example, by having a garage sale, you could gather things that you no longer use, or perhaps things that you actually have bought before and you just have them in your closet. Some activities may provide more income on an ongoing basis, such as taking on a part-time or a second job. Um, these are some of the ways to increase your income. Some activities may offer more longer term solution. You may have to develop sometimes before the strategy will generate income, but the benefit could be more sustainable. Participating in workshops just like this one, developing programs that develops programs may help you develop skills to fill high demand jobs and increase your income over the long term. Think about other ways to increase your income, using your talents or hobbies to make items to sell online, getting a seasonal job, for example, during the holidays, right? Or maybe during the summer, doing odd jobs such as providing childcare for families or siblings, doing your work, making deliveries or running errands. These are some of the ideas. Um, Inquire about promotional opportunities within your organization, and take steps to prepare yourself by building your skill sets. Determine whether you qualify for public benefits that have become available, particularly during the pandemic. So it's all about finding ways how to increase your incomes. On the next slides, we'll discuss about ways to decrease expenses. Decreasing expenses. You may be able to decrease your expenses. To decrease expenses, you need to think about your needs, wants, and obligation. Needs are things you must have to live or essential items required for life. For example, food, water, shelter, etc. Wants are things you desire and live without. Example of those expensive clothing or bigger house, an expensive car, or brand name things that we desire to have, but we could live without them, right? Obligation. Obligation are debts you owe because you borrow money from an institution or company, such as a car loan, a mortgage. Um, these are the type of other obligation. In order to we are we want to make sure that we on top of these things. How does it work, right? After considering this, you can think about following 3 strategies or conserve or adjust. Adjust. Conserve. What can you get cheaper or use less of? Adjust. What can you renegotiate over a long term? Do without. What can you eliminate either right away or over a long term? For example, if you frequently eat out, consider packing a lunch or prepare meals in advance so that to make it easier to have a dinner at home. Conserve energy to cut your utility costs. Adjust the thermostat. Try to use less heat or air conditioner. Use less water or fix leaky faucet as quick as possible because that's money, right? Shop carefully. Compare prices before buying, especially for costly items like car and large appliances. Make a shopping list to avoid impulse buying. Buy only what you need, not what you want. It's very important, especially when you go to the grocery, right? It happens to me all the time. I go in for to buy milk or eggs, and if I don't have a list, I end up coming out of the store with a lot of things that I want, not necessarily that I need. Uh, can you adjust, negotiate your cell phone uh, or cable plan? These are things that you could do. Eliminate check cashing fees by opening a bank account at a financial institution and setting a direct deposit. Borrow books at the library instead of buying them. They could become very expensive, especially if you love to read. You could save up some money there. Review your mail, credit card statements, and checking account statement for expenses that get charged on a recruiting basis. Maybe you subscribe to something like a magazine. Do you really need them? Consider whether you still get value for each products or services. If not, then you can cancel the items. Next, remember the key takeaways. Use a monthly spending and savings plans to guide how do you use your money. This it concludes my slide. I will pass it to Marco to go over the next slide. Take it away, Marco.
Thank you, Flory. Uh, in section one, Flory discussed ways to establish a household budget, use a monthly spending and savings plan, and manage expenses. In section two, we're going to cover steps you can take when money is short. Next. The key takeaway from this section is how to prioritize which bills to pay first when money is short. Next. So how does this happen? Even with careful planning, money can run short. Unexpected expenses can happen. For example, it's time to renew your car registration and you need to take it in for service or an inspection, and it doesn't pass because it needs something repaired. Other examples are unexpected medical expenses, pet emergencies, or loss of job, or a decrease in working hours, for example, with the pandemic, which caught us all by surprise. Next. So what can you do? When you can see that you're not going to have enough money to pay your bills and living expenses, there are a few things you can do. You can try to find ways to increase your income and decrease expenses. You can also contract your creditors about your situation, and don't be afraid to do so. They might give you extra time to pay or otherwise work with you. They might be able to change the due date for payments to one that is closer to when you receive your income. You can reach out for help, not only from family and friends, but also from community-based organizations and public agencies. These organizations and agencies have programs that can help you with your situation. If you try these things but still can't pay all your bills in full when they're due, prioritize what to pay first based on what might happen if you don't pay them. Next. So prioritizing based on what might happen. Prioritizing means making choices about which bills you can pay in full, pay partially, or pay late. Pay particular attention to the consequences of not paying certain bills in full or on time. Think about what might happen if you don't pay. For example, will it prevent you from earning income? It might impact your family's health or ability to live independently. It might jeopardize your shelter, result in the loss of job, the loss of your assets, including debts that are secured by things you own. For example, what happens if they repossess your car? Next. So how to prioritize your expenses. Step one, let's discuss what to do if your income is less than usual or you have an unexpected expense because your regular bills and living expenses don't stop. Your first step, you try to find ways to increase your income or reduce your expenses. If possible, volunteer or request overtime opportunities. Begin to look for a better paying job. Find a second job, perhaps temporary, or consider doing side jobs. If it's an option, request to work from home. This could save you gas and lunch money. Contact your creditors. They might give you extra time to pay or otherwise assist you. Remember, you can reach out for help not only from friends or family, but also from community based organizations and public agencies. There are nonprofits that provide financial coaching and assistance at no cost to you. Next. The next step is if you still can't pay all of your bills in full when they are due, prioritize which to pay first. List all of your bills and other expenses. Did you talk to your creditor? And check those things. And then write down what happens if you don't pay. Lastly, prioritize and number the list. Number 1 has to be the most serious consequence. Number 2, the most serious, and so on. Keep in mind, all of your bills are your responsibility. Plan to pay them as soon as you are able to do so. Next. Remember, the key takeaway from this section is to prioritize which bills to pay first when money is short. That is all for me. I hope you found this information useful, and now Mary will continue the rest of the presentation. Thank you.
Banked and how important this is to establish your financial well-being. You probably joined today because you wanted to understand that term budgeting, but as you heard from Flory, it's really about developing a spending plan and a expense plan, or rather an income and expense plan, and then what to do when something goes wrong. So now that we've covered those two areas, I want to talk to you about getting a bank account. Next slide. So what do you need to get a bank account, or why should you get one if you don't already have one? Because it can be the most important step towards reaching your financial goals. Putting your money in an FDIC-insured bank account can offer you financial safety, easy access to your funds, savings from check cashing fees, and overall peace of mind. Next slide. So if you don't have a bank account, or maybe you do have one, but you're not happy with the cost, I wanted to share with you that there are a number of banks and credit unions as well who have established a low-cost account that we call Bank On. And some of these accounts can cost less than $5 a month, don't require a minimum opening deposit. Some might be up to $50. There's no overdraft fees, and that's one of the important elements. There's also no checks. So it's more of an entry-level account, although in these days, there's very few people who are writing checks anymore. And there's no ATM fees if you use their ATM. So there's a number of banks that offer this product here in the Los Angeles market, and you can find them at this website. Next. I also want to share with you a campaign that we have here in Los Angeles called LA Saves. The idea behind it is to start small, think big, set a goal, make a plan, and take action. And where you can find this information is at the website lasaves.org. Next slide. So America Saves is a national nonprofit, and they are the ones that launched the concept to encourage people to save. And the idea is to motivate and encourage and support lower income households to save money, reduce debt, and build wealth. And the research that they did behind that campaign uses the principles of behavioral economics and social marketing to change behavior. And some of these things we talked about in the presentation about, is it a need or a want? And how do you make adjustments to work on developing a more financial stable income and expense spending plan. So why should you save? I think oftentimes we think about, well, you should have an emergency savings account because you don't know what might happen. Maybe you get a flat tire. Maybe someone gets ill and you need to spend on medicines. Maybe a family member has an emergency and you want to help them out. So that's one reason to have a savings account. But you should also think about saving for opportunities. So save for the good kind of unexpected. Maybe you have an opportunity to go to a concert, and because you have a savings, you feel comfortable using a little bit of it to enjoy yourself. So take the Los Angeles Saves Pledge and start saving. Next slide. I wanted to show you what taking the pledge means and what you would do when you get to the website. So the first step is you just provide your name. The second step is goals. So there's a number of options that you can pick. So I'm saving for an emergency, or maybe you're saving for a down payment, or maybe for a vacation, or maybe for some new computer. So you set your goal, and then you make a plan about how much you want to save each month and for how many months. So you say, okay, I want to save $20 a month for 12 months. And then the fourth element on this website asks you about keeping in touch. So it does need an email address. And also, if you provide your phone number, it will send you text messages, 1 or 2 a month, with some tips on how to save. And the only other personal information that we capture is just your zip code. And that's so we can know what part of the city our savers are coming from. Page down. Next slide, And this is what the actual website looks like when you go to lasaves.org to make a plan. Next slide. I wanted to make the point that also savings can mean reducing your debt. And as we talked about earlier in developing your spending plan, sometimes debt can add a bigger portion to it, or you're spending money paying interest. So if you're able to reduce debt, that's one way of reducing your expenses. Next slide. I hope you've enjoyed today's conversation about developing your spending and savings plan, but you may have questions about other financial topics. So I wanted to share with you a new program that the FDIC has developed, which is called How Money Smart Are You? And you can access this online or on your phone. And it's a great game that provides you everyday financial topics. Next slide. So this is what it looks like for the savings slide. You can see here that it has 5 rounds. Each round you earn coins. They're not real ones, but it's a game that helps you understand some basics on the topic of savings. There's other topics from credit to home ownership, to opening a bank account if you wanted more details. These are all accessible online, and we'll provide you with how to access them in our research page. Next slide. So what's important is to take action, to think about what we presented today. What are you going to do with the information? Are you going to start and develop your savings and spending plan? Because only when you start to write it down or do it on an Excel spreadsheet on your computer can you begin to really compare how much money you have, where it's going, and where you need to make adjustments. And so once you decide what you're going to do, then you need to decide how you're going to do it. Maybe it is taking on a second part-time job, maybe during the holidays when there's extra opportunities to do that. Maybe you'll have a garage sale. I know in my community, the first weekend of every month, there's a garage sale that, we can have at our home. So those are other ways of thinking about how to increase your income. And then thirdly is once you develop your plan, once you've decided what you're going to do and how you're going to do it, it often helps to share it with someone. You can go into a lot of details or a little details, or you can just tell your friend, you know what, I went to this workshop and I've decided I'm going to develop my spending plan and savings plan. And I'm going to work towards normalizing what each month looks like. And that helps because it's, I like to say when you decide that you want to lose a few pounds, if you just think about it, you may or may not achieve it. But if you tell your friend that you're going to lose 5 pounds and she sees you eating that ice cream, you might go, oh, I guess I'm off target here. I should skip that ice cream. So that's why it's important to share often with someone else what your plan is. If you'd like to receive more information or access more information, you can also go to our website at fdic.gov/education. Next slide. And this presentation will be available. We've placed a number of resources that you can access, like what are the top 10 reasons for opening a bank account. There's actually a checklist to pick a bank account. So what things should you be looking at? How do you compare them? And once you do establish a bank account, how do you manage it? Or maybe you currently have one, but sometimes you run into challenges. So you might want to learn better or be more informed about how to manage your bank account. And if you already have a bank account, maybe you want to shop around to see if there's a better offering, or you don't have one and you need to find a bank that offers one of these affordable bank products, you can go to the Bank on LA County website. And then, as I mentioned, there's a great deal of information from the FDIC that you can access our Consumer Resource Center. We have a whole campaign going on to get more people banked. And then finally, taking the LA Saves Pledge. Next slide. Flory, Marco, and I want to thank you for listening to our presentation, and I'd like to turn it over to Caroline to see if there are any questions.
Hi, everyone. I'm back. So there are a few questions. So we'll display it at the bottom of the screen. One question came in. I want to create a spending plan and savings plan, but the monthly expenses are not always the same. For example, like my utility bills. How do I plan for that?
Perfect. I'll take that question, Caroline. Calculated. While it can be hard to pinpoint precisely how much your electricity, your water bills will cost each month, especially during different seasons, right? During summer, we tend to use a lot of the air conditioner and whatnot, or during the winter, we tend to use a lot of our heaters. So basically, what we encourage you to do is kind of go back to analyze the previous year or the previous month when you have the months that you actually see your bills that are higher. For instance, in my personal experience, I usually see my electricity bill go up during the summer, and it goes up from like 70 to 100 to like 200. So it's important to calculate the average amount you spend for each utility bill. So for example, if you had your last 6 months of electricity bill, which is choosing that, you would add up the last 6 months of your off bills and divide that amount by 6. This will be an average of what you spend on electricity in the last 6 months. So throughout, kind of plan it out, just like we discussed earlier. It's all about having a plan how you spend your money. plan it out in advance, especially like the my personal experience. Every summer, I know that I'm gonna get a bigger bill during that time or during the winter because we all use we are very sensitive to cold, so we all tend to use the heaters. So I know that my bill is gonna come out a lot more than the usual bill. So what I do, I kind of plan it out, put extra money aside, just like Mary explained earlier. You got to put aside money either for an emergency or for this type of things that we don't kind of see coming. That's what I would encourage to you to do. Plan it
Thank you
out.
so much. Thank you. Yeah, actually, I'm winter is always like that for me too. It's always high, like right after the holidays, because like all the stuff. Good to know. There's another question that came in. You mentioned including in the spending plan, sharing, that my sharing of income. When would I be sharing my income? Like when does that actually happen?
Caroline, I'll take that one. That's a great question because I says, who am I sharing my money with? Well, it's those things that we don't think about. You go to church or a place of worship, and every week or whenever you go, you're going to put in a certain amount of money, but maybe you didn't plan for it. Or maybe you're helping out one of your children or your parents, and you know that every month or every couple of months you're giving them some extra money, or maybe you're helping them with a particular bill. And that's really sharing your income, but did you put it in your budget? So that's what we want to make sure that you think about, these other opportunities that you have, that you utilize in spending your money that you might not think of it, and that's what sharing is.
Okay, thank you. There's another question that came in. Is it really helpful to let the creditor or landlord know my payment is going to be late? Should I do that? Is it
I will take that question, and I would say yes, because we all want peace of mind. And contacting one's creditors as early as possible, I think, could avoid unnecessary penalties, late fees, and they might understand your position and work with you. I think it's also, like Mary said, to take action and negotiate, maybe a repayment plan. Maybe there's a chance to avoid any of the late fees or the penalties that they usually associate with like late payments. And you never know unless you ask. A personal example is I did the same thing with my student loans. I contacted my creditor when my loans were the terms of my loan were going to change. There's no way that my budget could support the new payments. So I contacted the creditor and I was nervous about it. And they introduced me to a program I didn't know about. And it was based on my income. And it reduced my payment by about 60%. So it allowed me to protect my credit, and it allowed me to continue savings and managing a budget I was accustomed to and comfortable with.
I didn't know that. It's always like they say, you never know until you ask. So,
Yeah.
like with that, with everything, really. There's one other question I see that's just come in. I don't know currently what if you don't have a bank account? Like, should I consider opening one up now? Like, what do you guys think?
Yeah, so if you don't have a bank account now, I'd say, why not? I mean, particularly the pandemic has shown us that so many of the transactions have gone to online, or using a debit card, or or credit card if you had to. It became more challenging sometimes to pay with cash. So having a bank account is like the foundation of establishing your financial well-being, because not only is your money protected because of the insurance, but it's also protected because there are other laws that ensure that if someone was to take money out of your account, there's protections, or somebody used your debit card unlawfully, there's protections for you. In addition to that, it begins to establish a relationship with the financial institution, whether it's a bank or a credit union, when you want to obtain a loan. For example, you want to plan to buy a home. I know the market's really expensive right now and you need to save for the down payment, but you also need to have good credit. And so this is an opportunity to establish your bank account, work on your credit, and you need a bank account to begin the process of obtaining a home ownership, because they always want to see where's the money that you're going to use for your down payment. So I would say it's the beginning element, and I would suggest entering it by using one of these bank on accounts. And then from there, if it turns out you need an account that has more bells and whistles on it, like it has, you can have checks on it, then you can move on up as well.
Okay, very good to know. Thank you so much. Let me see if any other questions. Okay, I don't see any other questions right now. So I wanted to thank you guys for a wonderful presentation. I know I learned a lot. I wanted to remind everyone. Oh, let me see if another one just came in. Oh, yeah, thank you. I wanted to remind everyone that this program is being recorded and it will be on our LAPL YouTube page, even like after the program. So if anyone missed anything, the whole thing is going to be on there. So you can go onto the website, YouTube, and then Los Angeles Public Library. And I wanted to let everyone know we have another financial literacy program coming up tomorrow at 12 noon. It's called Scam Prevention and Intervention Financial Elder Abuse. And in this presentation, Beth Zedek is going to discuss financial elder abuse. Some of the topics they're going to cover are scams, scam prevention, intervention, holistic concepts. So for more information on this program and our Financial Literacy Month in general, you can go to our Financial Literacy Month webpage. It's www.lapl.org/Financial Literacy Month, and it's displayed on the screen. And I think that's all I have. Thank you. I mean, everyone's like, great presentation. That's the comment. So thank you guys again for a wonderful presentation. And I hope everyone has a great rest of their day. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Great evening.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.